The world was once a place of mystery, vast oceans stretching beyond comprehension, lands uncharted, and waters so treacherous that even the bravest mariners feared what lay beyond the horizon. For centuries, sailors lived under the shadow of myths, tales of whirlpools that could swallow ships, seas where the sun never set, and edges of the world where brave men might tumble into nothingness. They called it the unknown, the terra incognita, and it was a realm reserved for the courageous or the foolish. Before the age of accurate charts, the seas were filled with uncertainty. Maps drawn by early civilizations were as much art as science. Rivers curled like serpents, mountains soared improbably, and coastlines appeared where no land existed. Sailors relied on the sun, the stars, and the wind. Yet each journey brought the terrifying possibility of venturing into a void. Legends whispered that beyond certain waters, gravity faltered, and ships could simply fall off the edge of the earth. These stories were not born merely from ignorance. They were warnings, passed down through generations, designed to prepare seafarers for the unknown. The fear of the world's edge influenced navigation, trade, and exploration. Medieval maps often depicted dragons and sea monsters in blank spaces, reminders that nature itself could be hostile. Mariners crossing the Atlantic or the Indian Ocean imagined whirlpools large enough to consume entire fleets, and cliffs rising from nowhere. These beliefs shaped how ships were built and how captains made decisions. Every voyage was a gamble with fate, where knowledge was sparse and danger was everywhere. Yet, for all the fear, there were those who dared to challenge it. Early navigators were not content to accept tales of the world's end. They studied the stars, the tides, and the behavior of birds. They charted currents, recorded winds, and tracked celestial bodies with instruments that seemed miraculous for their time. Slowly, method by method, they turned myth into measurable reality. The great Polynesian navigators, for instance, crossed thousands of kilometers of open ocean using only the stars, the patterns of waves, and the flight of seabirds. They had no maps, no compasses, and yet they defied the fear that the world had edges. In Europe, explorers sought the same mastery over the unknown. By the 15th century, the age of discovery had begun, fueled by ambition, curiosity, and the promise of wealth. Portuguese, Spanish, and later English and Dutch navigators sailed into waters that had never been charted, knowing that mistakes could mean disaster. Their voyages reshaped the world. They proved that oceans were not endless abysses, and that the edge of the map was not the edge of the world. One of the earliest and most influential explorers was Prince Henry the Navigator of Portugal. Though he never sailed himself, he sponsored expeditions along the west coast of Africa. Each journey extended the known boundaries of the earth and chipped away at centuries of myth. Sailors returned with tales of strange coastlines, new peoples, and unfamiliar currents. With each voyage, maps became more accurate, instruments more reliable, and the world smaller in both imagination and measurement. But the fear of the unknown never fully vanished. Even experienced sailors hesitated when approaching uncharted waters. They relied on superstitions, rituals, and prayers as much as their charts and compasses. Crossing the equator, rounding the Cape of Good Hope, or venturing into the South Seas, each milestone carried an almost spiritual weight. The ocean could claim a ship in an instant, and the stories of those lost became warnings for future generations. As exploration advanced, so did cartography. Maps began to include not just coastlines, but the shapes of continents, the flow of rivers, and the locations of mountains. Innovations like the astrolabe, the cross staff, and later the sextant allowed sailors to measure latitude with increasing accuracy. Longitude remained elusive for centuries, a problem that would not be fully solved until the invention of precise marine chronometers in the 18th century. Even then, the sea retained its mysteries. Many of the most famous expeditions illustrate the tension between myth and discovery. Christopher Columbus, when crossing the Atlantic in 1492, feared both storms and unknown currents, but he was driven by the belief that distant lands awaited. Ferdinand Magellan, nearly 3 decades later, led the first expedition to circumnavigate the globe, facing mutinies, treacherous waters, and starvation. Each successful voyage taught lessons about navigation, ship design, and human endurance. The ocean revealed its patterns, but always on its own terms. Meanwhile, indigenous navigators around the world had long been masters of their seas. The Vikings had charted the North Atlantic centuries earlier, reaching Iceland, Greenland, and even North America. Polynesian sailors traversed thousands of kilometers across the Pacific, guided by an intimate knowledge of the stars, waves, and seasonal winds. These civilizations had proven that the fear of falling off the world was rooted in ignorance rather than truth. Yet European explorers often treated such knowledge as secret or mystical. Even as maps improved, sailors' superstitions persisted. The concept of the Flying Dutchman, a ghost ship doomed to sail the seas forever, was born from sightings of strange lights and unidentifiable vessels. Tales of whirlpools, waterspouts, and sudden squalls filled logbooks. Mariners believed that venturing too far beyond known coasts invited supernatural punishment. These stories were as much a part of the culture of seafaring as the ships themselves. By the 17th century, the edge of the map was slowly disappearing. Detailed charts of the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans began to replace the mythical voids. Mariners could predict winds, understand currents, and estimate distances with greater confidence. Ports appeared where once there had been blank spaces. Yet the unknown remained, for every newly discovered island or coastline revealed new challenges. Ships were still wrecked on hidden reefs, caught in typhoons, or lost to the vastness of the open ocean. Even today, sailors respect the ocean's unpredictability. Modern navigation relies on GPS, radar, and satellite imagery, but the lessons of early explorers remain relevant. The fear of the unknown, the reverence for the sea, and the courage to venture beyond visible horizons shaped the foundation of maritime knowledge. Without those early navigators who challenged myths, we would not have the global networks, trade routes, or understanding of the planet that we take for granted. The story of the edge of the map is not just about ships and sailors. It is about humanity's relationship with the unknown. It is about curiosity overcoming fear, knowledge replacing superstition, and persistence triumphing over uncertainty. Each expedition, each chart, and each record of a journey across uncharted waters contributed to a larger understanding of the world. Ships themselves became symbols of human ambition, carrying explorers, scientists, and merchants into places where no one had gone before. They were both fragile and formidable, vessels designed to withstand storms, yet always at the mercy of the elements. Every voyage told a story of planning, risk, and discovery, and every loss served as a cautionary tale for the generations that followed. By the 18th century, maritime nations were competing to explore every corner of the globe. The Pacific, once a vast, empty space on European maps, was gradually filled with islands, archipelagos, and ports. Sailors named landmarks, documented currents, and recorded weather patterns, turning the ocean from an unknowable void into a navigable, if still dangerous, expanse. Yet the legends lingered. Whirlpools, sea monsters, and ghost ships persisted in cultural memory, a reminder of the psychological weight of the unknown. Through the centuries, the edge of the map shifted, receding with every successful voyage. Explorers like James Cook combined empirical observation with remarkable courage, mapping coastlines with unprecedented accuracy. He ventured into the South Pacific, documenting islands, reefs, and currents, showing the world that the ocean could be charted, understood, and navigated safely if one respected its power. Even so, the allure of the unknown continued to inspire adventurers. Stories of unexplored waters, mysterious currents, and distant lands fueled exploration for centuries. Maritime history is filled with tales of ships that pushed beyond charts, whose crews relied on skill, observation, and sheer determination to survive. These voyages were dangerous, yes, but they were also transformative, expanding human understanding and challenging the myths of falling off the world. Ultimately, the edge of the map is both a literal and metaphorical concept. It represents places unknown, fears unchecked, and human curiosity pushing against boundaries. Sailors who navigated these waters were pioneers, bridging the gap between myth and reality and shaping the knowledge that would define global exploration. They turned fear into strategy, superstition into science, and mystery into discovery. Today, when we look at a modern globe, it is difficult to imagine the terror of those early journeys. Blank spaces have vanished, and satellites provide precision unimaginable to sailors of old. Yet the bravery, ingenuity, and perseverance of those who ventured into the unknown continue to resonate. Their stories remind us that the pursuit of knowledge often requires stepping into the unseen, challenging both nature and our own limitations. The oceans remain vast and unpredictable, but the myths of the world's edge have given way to understanding. Each wave, each current, each unexplored bay was once a test of courage. And while modern ships traverse these waters with technology far beyond the compass and sextant, the legacy of early navigators endures. They remind us that the unknown is not to be feared but explored, that the edge of the map is not a boundary but an invitation. The story of sailors fearing the end of the world is a story of humanity itself. It speaks to our desire to know, to chart, to explore, to leave a mark on a planet that is vast, often indifferent, yet endlessly fascinating. The myths may have been replaced by maps, but the courage to venture into the unknown remains timeless. And so, when we consider the edge of the map, we remember those who dared to sail beyond certainty, who challenged fear with skill, and who taught the world that no ocean, no matter how vast, could contain human curiosity. Their journeys, recorded in logbooks, charts, and legends, continue to inspire us, reminding us that exploration is both a perilous endeavor and a testament to the enduring spirit of discovery.